Kaspa is up by almost 10%. Solana is also performing extremely well. But the question remains, will Bitcoin stay above 60K for good, or is a crash coming soon? We're going to go through all of that in this video. Hi, I'm Marius from 10x Analytics, and my channel is all about data, not hype. As always, we'll look at the full dashboard for the last 7 days. What's the macro data like? Where do we actually stand? And then we'll dive back into chart analysis for Kaspa, XRP, Supra, and all the other altcoins we cover. Let's see why Kaspa has risen so sharply. But Solana is also extremely strong, for example, so we'll look at all of that. But first, let's go straight to the dashboard, the 10x dashboard. So the overall market is still bearish. We're seeing a small counter movement now, which is positive, but we're still in a bear market. And the data confirms this as well. Fear and greed is at 22, so funnily enough, there's still extreme fear in the market. And that, of course, means it's bearish. Altcoin Season Index is at 32, also rather bearish for altcoins right now, even though the Bitcoin dominance is at 55.6. So the dominance is actually a bit lower. That means people are moving back into altcoins. That's why some altcoins are rising more than Bitcoin. Crypto market cap is, well, almost unchanged. The potential compared to the stock market or other asset classes is still huge. Funding rates, meaning derivatives, are more in the neutral range. But open interest remains bearish. And when we look at liquidations that have occurred in the last 24 hours, especially when it comes to leverage trading, we see that there have been $72 million in long positions and $38 million in short positions liquidated. This is also generally considered to be a bearish signal for the market overall. Then we always come back to the flows, meaning liquidity, and the Bitcoin ETF flows are rather bearish. For the whole week, more has flowed out than into the ETFs. However, exchange flows are actually bullish again, which is positive. In other words, many Bitcoins were withdrawn from exchanges and put back onto hardware wallets. That's always a sign that people want to hold on their hardware wallets and not sell. Stablecoin liquidity is also positive, bullish, and overall liquidity is actually a bit more bullish and positive again. So regarding liquidity flows, the signals are actually quite positive right now. Then the macro data, which on the other hand is rather bearish, DXY, US 10Y, and the VIX are all still in the bearish range. Then the Fed, the Central Bank of America, the interest rate, the effective one, remains the same. The next meeting is on July 29th. And everyone expects, well, almost everyone, 81% expect it to stay about the same. Yes, regarding the catalyst, the next date hasn't changed much since the last video. The FOMC meeting of the Federal Reserve of America is July 29th. The new inflation data will be out on July 15th. And Bitcoin as well as Ethereum options, which let's say expire, which can lead to volatility, July 25th. July. Before we get into the chart analysis, I currently have an exciting promotion, the bear market promotion, meaning this is the time when you really build up, when you look for the right altcoins for an entry point where you can also, let's say, do a lot with a good entry point, of course. And if you want to use my tools, then I recommend, as I said, the 10x indicator. On one hand, there's currently a 10x discount, 30% off, also on all terms, or the 10x elite. That's my complete program where I've ultimately integrated everything, let's say. Especially the 10x ranking list. I've analyzed almost over 150 altcoins, put them in the ranking, meaning you can filter by low cap and see which altcoin is actually fundamentally strong. I'm also currently rebuilding my website so that ultimately all membership offers run completely through my website, so you don't have to go to WAP, for example. I'm currently working with WAP there. Exactly, but you can take a look at everything. 10x is the code. Just enter that one. Link in the video description or QR code. Just scan it here. But now let's go into the chart analysis. Let's just see if we can make this a bit more pleasant here. So let's go straight into the chart analysis, starting with Bitcoin. Something exciting has already developed there. If you look at it, namely we had here, the indicator formed a small green dot, and after that, we also pushed upwards. So it was a sign, okay, now a bullish trend change could occur again. It did occur, so it was positive. Exactly. But now here we're losing a bit of momentum again, in my view. And down here, you can also see the momentum is now going back into the middle zone. Up here is always more of a bearish zone because it's an overbought zone. Down here is more bullish because it's an oversold zone. With Bitcoin at the moment, for everyone who follows my videos a bit more often, I'm ultimately waiting for us to land down here again in these areas and for a large green dot to form. Then that would be an exciting entry zone for me. But I'm still waiting for the stock market, because ultimately in the stock market, if you look at it now, we were here at the all-time high, then here. We haven't been able to break the all-time high anymore. Not here either, once again. So as you can see, it could continue to go down now. At a certain point, there's going to be a major pullback either way. In the stock market, which is completely normal, it's always been that way. After the all-time high, there were maybe slight increases here, but then it went downhill. That's going to drag Bitcoin down just the same, and all the altcoins too. So for me, it's clear right now that at some point it'll start going down again. Plus, that would fit perfectly with the bear market pattern where it usually goes down. So for now, I would just wait and see. Ethereum, yeah, was actually similar to Bitcoin if you look at it. Also rose about 15%, so nothing different here either. Solana, on the other hand, performed strongly, I have to say. Personally, I'm still convinced by Solana. And I actually did an analysis on Solana once. Feel free to check it out. I'll link it up here. Anyway, Solana is really, yeah, if you look at it after the indicator formed a small green dot, we went up by almost 22%. And if you'd invested here when the big green dot appeared, which is a sign of a bottom forming, then we'd already be up 35%. So that's quite a decent increase. Solana really managed to build up momentum again there. At the same time, I'd be careful about entering here now because the risk is just there. As you can see here, we're slowly entering the overbought zone, meaning a possible top is forming. So there could be a sell-off coming soon. Same system here with Solana as well. If Solana goes down, we form a big green dot and we get back into the oversold zone, then Solana gets exciting, at least for me personally. Let's move on to Kaspa. Kaspa, as mentioned in the intro, is also very strong. It's not for nothing. Kaspa also has strong drivers at the moment. And that's why there's a massive 18% increase here too. As I said, I'm also technically convinced by Kaspa. Exciting project. But here too, we're slowly entering an overbought zone. I'd be rather cautious there at the moment. Here too, when we get into these areas, then it'll get exciting. And if you don't want to miss that on Kaspa, I do a video like this at least once a week where I go over the charts, but I also do quite a few Kaspa videos simply because Kaspa is in high demand and in my view has one of the strongest technologies. If you don't want to miss out, feel free to subscribe to the channel now and hit the bell, otherwise you won't get everything. That's always important on YouTube lately. And then you'll definitely be up to date on everything regarding Kaspa. All right, moving on. XRP. Many of you also like XRP. I also find XRP extremely interesting as an international payment processor. XRP has also risen quite a bit, yes, 11%. We see increases here time and again, but also massive sell-offs repeatedly. But it's a similar picture there too. In my view, it has to go lower and it will go lower. No guarantee, but there's a high chance we'll see another lower low for XRP in this bear market. Then Internet Computer, it doesn't look so perfect there. From the chart right now, we had a slight increase, but nothing extreme. I'd also wait there until we get back down into the oversold zone, and then it'll slowly get really exciting. For now though, I'd rather wait here as well. Let's move on to Supra. Yes, Supra. Actually exciting in terms of the chart because it formed a large green dot, but right after that, a small red one again, so a bearish trend reversal. So it wasn't sustainable here, but that's quite normal in a bear market. There are usually several, let's say, bottom formations. Therefore, it's usually the case anyway that altcoins are driven by Bitcoin, but also by macro data. So as I said, if the entire stock market crashes, then altcoins and Bitcoin will crash too. Right now, in the bear market, you have to be careful. Supra, I'd be extremely cautious here right now and rather wait. Until, as I said, the major stock crash happened or happens, and then there might be an exciting entry zone. Moving on to Cardano. Cardano is extremely exciting. There was some very negative news, especially from Charles Hoskinson. It was then sold off massively here as well. But now we had two large green dots, so really a bottom formation here. And after that, Cardano really rose extremely. If you look at it now, almost 26, 27%. That's already a very strong increase, quite decent. But now we're also slowly getting back into the middle zone, if not soon into the overbought zone. So you have to be careful at the moment. Then Alchemy Pay, let's take a quick look at that too. Also a small, large green dot here, a positive sign at first. But the increase was only 6-7%, it wasn't that extreme. Polygon, how does it look with Polygon? Polygon had a small green dot here, then there was also a slight increase, so in that sense, positive for now. Personally, I'm also technically convinced by Polygon because it's a strong project and no longer just a layer 2 like it used to be. What I once said about Polygon is, in this exciting video here, there I explained the features again, why Polygon is completely repositioning itself. Then what do we have? Cronos. Exactly, Cronos has a big green dot, also a good increase if you think about it like that. Almost 16%. So that's also quite decent right now here, but also here we're getting into the middle zone now. I would also rather wait and see for now. Let's take a very quick look at the stocks now. As I said, this is just as important for crypto, so definitely stay tuned. We have the US 100 here. Here we had when the 10x indicator, which by the way also for stocks, let's say works and can be used. Here, big green dot followed by an increase of 31%. But here already several warning signals, and currently, as we see, didn't make an all-time high here, didn't make an all-time high here. So extremely risky right now. It's like the razor's edge right now, and it could go down significantly further. As you always see in the past, here we had a drop of 26%, here we had a drop of 15%. So we were just now at about 7%, even if we go to 15%, we go here. But if we have such a stronger drop, then it goes more in this direction here, which from my point of view is also absolutely realistic. Yes, that's it for now regarding the chart analyses. If you don't want to miss them in the future, as I said, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And I'm linking a video for you here now that I only recently filmed on the topic of MCA. So extremely important. I've just categorized it based on data for you. All the info here on McKay. Thanks for watching, and then we'll see each other in the next video.